just had to spark up my favorite cigar. Hi Ron and Ryan, Marines, sailors and soldiers, airmen, and even coasties. Tonight we're going to do something kind of cool, and this is the way it's going to go in the future. There'll be periodic episodes that I don't read. What's going to come next here, and I'll edit it in, I'll cut to it, is our friend Katie Briggs, who is the president of Landfest, and I want to put a plug in for Emerald City Land, which is coming up the first weekend in March in 2019. We're going to give the proceeds to Canines for Warriors, which is a great organization that gives service animals, service dogs, to veterans that have PTSD or that are injured. They provide service animals to these veterans, and it's an amazing, touching, therapeutic story. But that's not what we're going to read. Katie's going to read something out of James Bradley's Flags of Our Father. It's a little bit more about Tarawa, and it kind of explains how the general, Howling Mad Smith, felt about his men. He knew what these guys were made of, and he was not in any way fooled about the sacrifice that they ultimately gave. So stand by, and we're going to switch over to Katie. Go ahead.
Good morning. I'm going to read a small story. Looking at these Japanese defenses, Smith knew the Marines' road to Tokyo would be a bloody one. The distance between this first major amphibious assault on Tarawa and faraway Tokyo was over 2,000 miles. It presented an enormous challenge in terms of distance. In 1812, Napoleon had marched his men 1,500 miles to Moscow. In the 13th century, Genghis Khan advanced 4,000 miles from Mongolia to the shores of the Mediterranean. But those campaigns collapsed because of the distances. And now the Marines were faced with a campaign almost the distance from New York to San Francisco. A grief-stricken General Smith walked to the beach to view for himself young Marines floating face down in the lagoon and lying along the blood-splattered beaches. When American civilians later saw newsreels and photos of rows of Marine corpses floating in the surf, most were horrified. "This must not happen again," screamed the editorials, and one mother wrote a commander, "You killed my son on Tarawa." Correspondent Sherrod worried that America did not have the stomach for the sacrifices the Marines would have to make to conquer the Pacific. To him, it was obvious that the Japanese strategy was to dig in on every island in the Central Pacific to inflict horrendous American losses in the hope that America would give up and negotiate a peace. The Japanese were counting on the civilians to blanch at the human cost of advancing on Japan, and for the Marines to falter in the face of the fanatical Japanese defenses. Yet, however much civilian support might have been in doubt, Smith had no doubts about the determination and bravery of his Marines. And at his last stop on the island, at the high seawall the Marines had to surmount to get onto Tarawa, Howlin' Mad saw an example of Marine valor. Sherrod wrote that the party saw, quote, a Marine who was leaning in death against the seawall, one arm still supported upright by the weight of his body. On top of the seawall, just beyond his upraised hand, lies a blue and white flag, a beach marker to tell succeeding waves where to land, says Holland Smith. How can men like that ever be defeated? This Marine's duty was to plant that flag on top of the seawall. He did his duty, though it cost him his life. Semper Fidelis meant more to him than just a catchphrase, unquote. Thank you.
I hope you like what you saw. Please subscribe. Please tell your friends.